Good morning. As we go to the Chitas of today, we go to the Chumash of the day. We're holding in the book of Genesis. We are holding in the portion of Vayeshev. We are holding, today is the fourth day, Wednesday. We're holding the fourth reading of Parashat Vayeshev, chapter 38, verse number 1. Vayiba here was at that time. Vayedid Yehuda Meisechav, and Yehuda was demoted, went down from his brothers. Vayet ad ish adalomi, and then he turned away until he came to a Adalomit man. Ushmoy Chira, and his man was named Chira. Now she says, what's the connection of this portion with the previous portion? To tell us, it interrupts the section dealing with Joseph, to teach us that his brother Yehuda demoted himself from his high position when he saw their father's distress. He realized the mistake that he's done. He should have stepped up and done something. And they said, you told us to sell him. Had you told us to return him, we would have listened to you. So he said, okay. He accepted his mistake. So he went away. Ad ish adalami, and he entered a partnership business with this man. Yehuda and Yehuda saw the Ibas Ish Kanani. He saw the daughter of the Canaanite woman, Ushmoy Shua, and her name was Shua. He married her. This guy, the Kanani, was a merchant. Ben, and he had a son. He called his son named Er. He had a second son, Ben, and another son, and he called him Ein. Ben, he had another son, Shela, he called him Shela, and she was in Chaziv when they gave birth. So the simple meaning is Chaziv is a place called the name of a place. I say, however, they called him Chaziv because she stopped giving birth. It's an exception. You are failing. You're failing. The water does not fail. Otherwise, why does the Torah tell it to us? Moreover, in Bereshit Rabbah, and he named her Shela, she stopped bearing. So this is an expression of that he was disappointed, so to say, that she was not having more children. A couple of years later, they got married pretty young those days. And Yehuda took a wife for Er, Ushma Tamar, and her name was Tamar. Yehuda, Hashem, and Yehuda's firstborn was evil in the eyes of God. And he died. Hashem, God put him to death. Now she said, what was his evil? Was like the evil of Einon. They wasted their semen. And they're written in connection with Einon, and he put him to death. Also meaning that Er's death, so that Einon's death. Now, why didn't Er didn't want to have Tamar pregnant? Because she was beauty. He wanted her beauty. And he didn't want to have her to get pregnant, and she would be affected by that. So Yehuda told Einon, come to get married to your brother's wife. She has no children. This is the Levirate law. And marry her, because you have to, even though they didn't have the law of Levirate till later, the Torah, but they knew the laws. They knew the Torah law already. So he said, you got to marry your brother's wife. And you should have children for your brother. The son shall be called in the name of the deceased. That's where we get the tradition that we name it after a person that's deceased. We continue the name. So Einon knew. He said, you want I should marry this person for my brother? So every time he had a relationship with this girl, with Tamar, he would spill it. He wouldn't have it. He would make sure not to spill his seed. That's how what a wonderful guy he was. Not to give his brother any kind of connection. And it was extremely distressful in the eyes of God. Asher also, which he did. He passed away too. Now, self-understood that Yehuda didn't know this whole thing. He didn't know what his children were doing in their private bedrooms. So Yehuda told his daughter-in-law, Tamar, remain as a widow, because now the third child really should marry her, because he still had the Levirate law, because the first brother passed away without children. The second brother passed away without children. Really, the third brother, Sheila, should get married to her. That's what should be doing according to Jewish law. But he didn't want to do that. So he said, go home. Remain until Sheila grows up. Because what he had in mind, basically, to drop this whole thing, he thought that maybe she's a terrible woman. Maybe she's affecting them. So he said, let's die like his brothers. Tamar, so Tamar went. She went to her father's house. Now she said, meaning that he dismissed her with a straw and a lame excuse. But he did not intend to marry him. He gave him a push off. He said, listen, go home. I'll call you when wait for my call. You don't call me, I'll call you. Because this woman whose husband presumably died young. So he said, basically, blamed it on her. He didn't blame it on his sons. Blamed it on her. And the days passed. Thomas Bashua, Ashes Yehuda, and Bashua, the wife of Yehuda, passed away. So now he was a widow too. But Yerachim Yehuda and Yehuda was consoled. He had to console him. He went up. So he put himself back into the sheep business. He was a shepherd. He went back with his friends. They went on a trip together. Timnasa to Timnah. Actually, he went to Timnah to stand over the sheep shears, oversee them. Yugal Tamar, and the Tamar was told, so Tamar was told by somebody that you behold, your father-in-law has traveled to Timnah to shear his sheep. Hashem, in connection to Shimshon HaGiber, Torah says, and Samson went down to Timnah. So where's Timnah? Higher, low. It's situated on a mountain slope. So you go up from here, you go down from there. Torah says, "Big she took off a widow's garb. But the chas b'tzoif, and she covered her head with a veil. But the slave and her face, but she sat down the crossroads. So she decided to. She realized that he is not giving her Sheila, that he basically lied to her and just sent her away. So she wanted to have her. She was a special girl, and she wanted to have a connection to Yehuda, to the family. She saw that Sheila has grown up. He wasn't given to her as a wife. Ash says she covered her face that he would not recognize her. At the opening of the eyes at the crossroads on the road to Timnah, our sage however explained midrashically, meaning at the entrance to the residence of our father Abraham. So she went. She knew he was going to go past here. Why? Because this was where Avram Avinu lives. So everybody passed by this place. Everybody wanted to come and see the house of Avram Avinu. So this is the tent of Abraham. So she knew he's going to come there, and she's going to be there. He's going to be there. So not like it's some people say crossroads. You sit on the side of the side of the road. No, she went to a specific place. That's what Ashi said. She went to a specific place where everybody comes to see. It was like a historical site where everybody came to get the picture. So this was a place where she knew that Yehuda, if he's going to Timnasa, there was no question that he was going to come to this tent. Therefore, she made herself available. She made herself available to Yehuda. She longed to bear sons from him, so she longed to have this relationship with you, with this family, and she was ready to give up everything for that. Yehuda came to the place, but Zaina, and he thought she was a Zaina, harlot. Because she covered her face. Because she was sitting at the crossroads. and he could not see her and recognize her. I was saying the Medrash interpreted she became, because she had covered her face when she had stayed with her father-in-law's house, and she was modest. Therefore, he did not suspect her. So he turned aside towards the road. He said to him, let's have a relationship. He didn't know that it was actually his daughter-in-law. He said, what are you going to give to me? She said, what are you going to give to me? Now she says, from the road which he was following, he turned to that road where she was. Havana, prepare yourself and your mind for this. Every expression of hava signifies preparation. So we can't even translate as expression of giving. In this instance, hava meaning preparation are close to the expression of giving. He said, I'll send you a kid, I'll send you a goat for my flock. That's in Timnah. Atema said, very well, I'll accept that, but I need collateral. I need to have a guarantee they're going to give me. You have to give me something right now. Matia Evada, what is your guarantee? Ada shlach until you send it to me. Nashkin, security. He said, what is the pledge I can give to you? He saw he was wearing a ring. So he said, give me your ring, and your cloak, matecha and your staff. He asked for three things. Vayitullah, he gave it to her. Vayavilah, they had a relationship, and she got pregnant. Now she says, your ring which you seal, your cloak in which you cover yourself. He conceived for mighty men like him, righteous men like him. She went home and she took off her veil. Went home and she wore her garments as a widow. So Yehuda sent her the sent the goat. He made a promise. With his friend. He wants back his ring. Isha from the hand of the woman. He couldn't find it. She asked the people of the city, where is this Gedesha? Where is this harlot? Sorry, nobody like that. Nobody was here. What means Kadesha? Kadesha is holiness. But Znus is also Kadesha. Why? Because Mukadesha is ready for harlot. It's like separated. Kadesha is separation. Something that's separate. So he said, this is a woman that she's separate. She's an immodest person. She lives with people. Yehuda came back to Yehuda, verse 22. I didn't find her. The people said there was no such woman. Verse 23. So Yehuda said, let her take them for herself. Ladies become like a laughing stock. Behold, I sent this kid, and I couldn't find him. What does that mean? Let her keep what she has. Paying lovers, if we seek her further, the matter will become known. I'll be a disgrace. For what more am I required to keep my word? Since Yehuda had deceived his father with a kid whose blood was immersed in blood, so too he was deceived with a goat. Same thing. What goes around comes around. Verse 24, what happened 3 months later? By Yugad Lehuda, and Yehuda found out, your daughter-in-law, who's a widow, who needs to get married to your son, actually is pregnant. And how'd she get pregnant? She must have gotten pregnant because she had a relation with somebody. She's a married woman. A Jewish law, she has to get a chalitza. It's like some kind of a get to get out of the Levirate law. So she didn't do that. So Yehuda say, Torah law, if a person has a relationship while married, then it's the punishment by death. Now she says, Kimshalosh Chadashim, the greater part of the first and the greater part of the third, and the complete middle one. Expression Kimshalosh Chadashim upon the tripling of months. Hadal is Nunim, that says, this is pregnant, but Tisarif, Ephraim, Mishkana said in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, she was a daughter of shame. Tamar was a daughter of shame, who was a priest. This is going later to the law that a daughter of a priest, difference between every other person, girl, woman who has a relationship in marriage, she's put to death by the sword. But a daughter, the Torah says later that a daughter of a priest has a relationship in marriage, she's put to death by burning. So that's why he told her that she should be burned. Verse 25, he might says, she was taken out. And she says to her father-in-law, for the man who owns these three things, I am pregnant too. So he sent this, he said, go to ask him if he recognizes these three things. So she was being taken out to be burned. And she did not want to embarrass him to say, from you, I'm pregnant. She could have said, what do you mean? Yehuda's judging me. Yehuda's the one that made me pregnant. But she said, for the man who these belong to, he could have said, I don't know, they don't belong to me. Actually, they didn't belong to me. He said, let it be hers. So he wouldn't be lying even when he said, it's not mine. It's hers. She said, if he confesses by himself, let him confess. And if not, then I'm ready to go on Mesiras Nefesh. But not embarrass him. From this day, the rabbis say it's better to person to cast himself in the furnace than to embarrass somebody else. And that's where you see the greatness of Tamar, that she said basically, I'm not going to embarrass him. Hakena, an expression of supplication, please recognize your creator and do not destroy three souls. Because she was pregnant with twins. Verse 26, Vayaku Yehuda, and Yehuda recognized him. And she said, she is right. She's more righteous than me. I didn't give it to Shelah. I didn't give it to my son. But he no longer continued to be intimate with her. She is righteous in her words. She's pregnant from me. Our sage have explained this midrashically to mean that a baskel came forth and declared, from me and from within me, these matters have been emerged. Since she was modest in her father-in-law's house, I decree that the king should be descent from her. So this was expression of God. God says, she is righteous. And because she's righteous, I'm going to have that from her comes out kings. And this girl, Tamar, I decree the king should be descended from her. And from the tribe of Yehuda, I already decreed raising kings in Israel. For she did this justifiably because I did not give her my son Shelah. So here I try to push her away. So she was a righteous woman. Now, what means he didn't have any relationship with her? The machlekes and the Gemara, what the meaning of these statements is. Some say he did not continue to know her, and others say he did not cease to know her. It means he fell in love with her. Similar instances found in the book of Numbers with the verse of Le'asufu. They did not continue, and the Targum chances that by Pasaka did not cease. Verse 27. He based Lidita came about the time of her birth. And behold, there are twins in her womb. Beis Lidita is missing the concerning Rebecca. Scripture states, and her days giving her birth were complete. In the latter instance, the months were complete, but here there was short, full term. That they would not. They were missed. She as called a Zibala. She married. She had a child in the 7th month. He need Tu'umim. Tu'umim over here is written complete with the Yud. It's written here full spelling Tu'umim. In the other instance, Rebecca, it's written Tu'umim without the Yud. Because by Rebecca, her twins were not complete. One of them was a Rasha. Over here, they were both tzaddikim. They were both righteous. He believed it when she had a child. She sort of realized that the child came out with her hand, but he's going to put back his hand. The Widmai took him bound to the crimson thread in hand, saying this came out first. One stretched out his hand to the outside, and after she made it bound the crimson thread, he drew it back. He came and it came past it, he drew back his hand, and the other son came out. Paretz, why'd you jump? Why, with the strength you have strengthened yourself, you went before your brothers while he was coming out first. And he called him Paretz. Paretz means Paratzta, with strength. You have strengthened yourself. And then his brother went out, which he had this crimson on his hand. He called him Zarach. Ash's 4 hands are written here, aspiring to the 4 devoted things by which Achan, who is a descendant of Zarach, committed trespass. Some say they were corresponding to the 4 things that he took: a Babylon garment, 2 pieces of silver weight, 200 shekel, a wedge of gold. This is all later. This is prophesied and what have later from the kings of Yehud. Zarach, because the shining appearance zichas of the crimson. So called him Zarach. That completes the Chumash for today. We now go to the time of the day. We're gonna complete the introduction of Tanya. And Mid-Shem tomorrow we'll start the Tanya from beginning. So after the this distribution of these pamphlets, so to say, the cat of Kalanchi Shleimenu, through the numerous transcribed Batakas Rabbis, the Shefrim Shedim. So when things are distributed by many places, the riba takas shenas. Those days it was the printing was just the beginning of printing. It was a very difficult thing to print. If you had to put letter by letter, and then when you had to do that, it was all called the bachar azetzer in Yiddish, the guy who puts the letters together. And self-understood that this guy can make a lot of mistakes. One little letter, he puts the wrong letter there. Now you have the whole big mistake. And that happened in the beginning of printing, which is a major thing. The concept of the printing press changed the world. But ultimately, in the beginning of printing, was a very difficult process. And the Bacha Azetzer, the guy who would put the letters together, most of the time not even Jewish. And he made a lot of mistakes. He put the wrong letters with the wrong places, and there was a lot of tuisim. Rabu kamar rabu tuisim. There was came out a lot of mistakes in printing. It's happened like that. And you see that in Rashi also. You'll see there's a lot of Rashi also with the original Rashi and because the printing, the way it was printed those days. So there could come out a lot of mistakes through printing. Because who was the printers in those days? They were non-Jews, and they used to put the letters together, and which was very difficult. It was extremely difficult, and there was a lot of mistakes in the printing. Moed. There was numerous textual errors. I mentioned above, the word was copyist. May well be alluded to two kinds of errors: intentional as well as innocent. Self-understood that there were some people who wanted to make intentional letters, especially to Jewish books. So they would make intentional errors or by mistake. That's why there was a lot of mistakes. Therefore, the spirit of noblemen mentioned on the previous page Leil me'evel adaf toich megufim mei. Therefore, you had to have the Alter Rebbe needed to give this printing of this book to people that would care about him, that wouldn't to put a financial and physical effort in making sure to print it correctly. To have the pamphlets published, cleared of all dross, and copy its errors. Another possible allusion to two types of errors mentioned above. Forgery. There were those who wanted to do forgery and thoroughly checked. So they made sure to be on top of it. I congratulate them on this worthy deed. In so much as the verse states explicitly, cursed to the one who encroaches on his fellow's border. With the expression of a curse means it implies both damnation and excommunication. God preserve us. It is actually superfluous to add any further prohibition on violating the copyright of the publisher. So therefore, I'm asking nobody should reprint these things. Not to reprint these things, but to make sure to get it specifically through this channel. I come only to reinforce the words of the scripture, which the Talmud states as a mere practice of Yehuda in order to reinforce the scriptural statement. Find the Gemara, Yehuda v'Elikra, that the Gemara says there's a pasuk. Why do I need to say it? Why does a sage need to say it if there's a pasuk? The sage doesn't need to say it only to back it up, so to make sure that the pasuk is followed. I don't have to tell you something which is already law. Everybody knows the law that there's such a thing as copyright. That you have no right to take something that was copyrighted by somebody else and to reprint it on you by yourself. You don't have the right. It's known law against it. I'm just reinforcing that statement. Please do not touch these copies, because ultimately, if you're gonna play around with it, you're gonna touch it and you're gonna get it printed, and the printer is gonna print it wrong. Who's taking responsibility for these mistakes that our printers are making, whether intentionally or unintentionally? Invoking a strict prohibition on all publishers against printing these pamphlets. And it's called Leila de Atzman, I'm asking you I'm asking all printers not to do printing of these books, not through themselves and not through others. Lead the shus on nekvin besides permission of the above name. From the 5 years from the day of this printing is completed. And may the pleasance be to those who comply, and may they be blessed with good. This is the words of the compiler. This we end the words of the compiler, the Alter Rebbe, and it's called Likutei Amarim. Tomorrow we start Tanya again, first chapter of Tanya. This year it's a leap year, so the Tanya is going to be shorter than like last year, which was a non-leap year. So a leap year, the Frierdiker Rebbe, Pivus Lubavitcher Rebbe, who divided the Tanya into the year, he divided it in two ways, for a leap year and for a non-leap year. So this year we have 30 days extra in the year, 2 others. So automatically the Tanya is going to be split up differently than the way we learned last year. So in Mitzvah, you'll not learn exactly the way you learned it last year, because this year you're going to actually have an extra 30 days of Tanya learning, because we have 2 others. So it's going to be a different setup, a little bit different than the last year's, the way we learned the last year's. But in Mitzvah, we're going to Mitzvah start that tomorrow. Mitzvah will start the first chapter of Tanya. Today is the 24th day of the month. So it's today is the 23rd day of the month, which is chapter 108 to chapter 112. If you do chapter 108 to chapter 112, you would do the chitas of today. Not the best in the world. Yeah, sure, the best. Thank you for the compliment. Emit Shem, I wish you all a wonderful day. And Emit Shem, tomorrow, get your friends to come. We're starting the Tanya again at 8 a.m. We're going to start the Tanya all the way from the first chapter again. We'll learn Chitas together. Emit Shem tomorrow at 8 a.m. Have a wonderful and beautiful day.